Finished training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
And we're back. You're watching Bit of an Animal here on the Global Gainlines YouTube channel. It's been quite a week. 2 Springbok games in the same day. One went really well, one didn't go so well. Let's start the show.
This is A Bit of an Animal.
Welcome back. We are short one man. Tim Nkosi is unfortunately not with us this evening. He'll be back next week. We keep his family in our prayers. Lisa B and Jean are here with me this evening. Great to see you guys. Let's move on to topic number 1. South Africa did not make history the week before at Eden Park, so we decided to just make history in Wellington. Jean, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I think actually it all in all a very good all-round performance by us. First off, very much chess and wrestling at the same time. And then in the second half, the wrestling made the chess a whole lot easier. Um, I think key things that stood out to me, number one, team cohesion was obviously um, something that they focused on a lot. If you take a look at when some of our guys went off, Lut went off at 9 minutes, Reinach went off, came back. We lost Sasha pretty early. We had a whole cycle of injuries, pretty much ongoing through the match, and the team stayed together. So that's something that stood out to me is we, despite the fact that we had this raft of injuries throwing us off our rhythm and sort of taking the plan by storm, we stayed on point, we stayed focused. The team remained, how can I say, they remained in that flow state of saying it's fine, it doesn't matter who's on the field, we're doing this. Grant Williams, phenomenal game at wing. I think he really stood out there. Um, then the other thing that really stood out to me was Mani Libbok and Andre Esterhuizen. Both showed exactly the sort of skills that we don't normally see from them. Mani Libbok, because we didn't overplay, which is, I think, looking back now, I think that's what happened against Australia at Ellis Park, is we overplayed our hand. We got stuck in that mindset of just go, 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 go. This game much more conservative, much more patient. Um, so very happy there. And then Andre Esterhuizen threading the needle with some of those passes, like soft, soft, soft hands. And then I'm almost finished. Damian Willemse proving exactly why he needs to be in the team. Um, he had an absolute banger of a match. He was absolutely fantastic in terms of attack, in terms of defense. I know Rassie said he was lacking some confidence, and he sort of built him up again, showing him clips from the Mbombela game in 2022. So yeah, just fantastic from him. Very happy there. Um, yeah, very happy. You can keep your Eden Park record. We'll just give you the biggest defeat in history.
Lisa B, it was the Battle of the Damians, and we know you're a big fan of that first name. Which of the two impressed you more?
Um, good question. Obviously, Damien Willemse. But shout out to DMAC. I mean, he took some massive hits and he survived, and I thought he had a really good game. Um, and also to our Kiwi friends, it's not that bad. You guys are still a good team. Please don't I know both our nations are quite critical of our teams and all of that, but please don't get too down on yourselves. You really are awesome, and it was an awesome game. And I fully expect the Kiwis to come back in 2 weeks' time and uh, put some good scores against Australia. Maybe win one, lose one, we'll see. But the point that I'm trying to get back to is that it was so cool seeing Gaza, just in his element. Last week I did say I feel he's a player that really gets his energy from playing, and he was just like a juggernaut. I was so impressed with him. Um, and also just that try, which I found very interesting, is how when the ball came out the ruck and he decided to take the near gap and not go for the far uh, there were two other players out wide. And I also think, like to Jean's point, in previous games against Australia, against Italy even, we would have taken the wide channel, and Damien just decided, no, I'm going to back myself. And even though the gap was smaller and he had to go through three Kiwis to get there, it was the right decision. And there were no knock-ons, no um, loss of the ball or anything like that. And I think that was really kind of an interesting feature of this game, that we really capitalized on our 22-meter entries. And I think that's why, because we didn't, like Jean said, overplay. So he already said it. And then also Jasper Wiese, oh my goodness. So I know we've talked about the number 8 quite a lot. And he made a huge difference. I think also he made a huge difference in the scrum. Just keeping things stable and directing it from the back. I'm still very nervous. He flirted with the red and the yellow cards. If that body slam on Geordie went like 2 millimeters too far, he would have gotten a red. But all in all, really impressed with him. And yeah, also to Jean's point, I heard Jaco Pijper in a little interview say that basically he was talking about Eden Park, and he said last week everyone tried their best. This one, everyone tried together. And that's exactly what we saw in that second half. And it's almost like we've been waiting for this the entire year. And it was just fantastic. First half obviously had its problems, but very, very happy with that second half. And my question to you guys now is Damien Willemse a 12 or a 15?
He's what we need him to be because of the system under Russie. We try and keep the opposition guessing. So we can't really pin anybody down. Because the reality is that the coaching staff we have, they don't believe in a system of like, this is our best 23 or this is our best 15. These are the best players for these conditions and these opponents. That's my view on it anyway. What are your thoughts, John?
Yeah, I think it's difficult because I believe he's been playing center all his life, like his school career and his lower level career. He started as center. And don't get me wrong, I think in terms of stepping ability and just close contact ability, he's probably the number one 12 we have. In terms of pure punch, I think he rates third. Like Damien Dahlende, despite being, I think, the lightest of the three, still manages to always get over the gain line. But he's that's a combination of physicality and stepping because I've watched him enough to know that he will present himself as going towards the right and then at the last second shift left. So tacklers tend to slide off. Andre Esterhuizen just has the bulk to punch through two guys. So if you're not going high and low on Esterhuizen, he's just making 3 meters. Um, I think there's definitely an air of flexibility because he played most of the, or not most of the game, most of the second half for us at 15. After Fassi sadly got injured, and he also, again, what a banger of a match from Fassi on a 15. I think, and this is purely me speaking, the reason for me putting Willems on 15 above 12 is I rate his kicking ability above Fassi. I rate his backfield ability above Fassi. So if you're going up against a team, especially the French, um, who love to use kick tennis to manipulate field position, Willemse all day, all day. Fassi is excellent on the counter attack. Um, but if we're going up against a team like France, like England, potentially like Australia, who like to put it, they tend to pin your fullback down and present a picture of there's no way for you to go. You can't shift right, you can't shift left, there's nowhere to go. Um, and they want you to kick back because it allows them to counterattack at you. Um, just because of that, I'd put Willems at a 15 first and a stand in 12 second.
Excellent. Special shout out to Ethan Hooker making his starting debut. Debut. Yeah, Sharks player. I am wearing black and white, and we're dynamite. I gotta do this. Yeah, Ethan Hooker doing Ethan Hooker stuff. If you watch the Sharks, this is what he does. He's got excellent speed, balance, steps one, two people given the space. So well done to him. Yeah, overall good game. I'm also somewhat dismayed at sort of the New Zealand general media is completely losing their minds of this game. It's a razor out. It's all kinds of stuff. It's what's Warren Gatlin's number? Has anyone got Warren Gatlin's number? That type of thing. So, but weird, but alarmist. I mean, 2 years out from a World Cup, you're gonna have teething problems. It's a clearly talented squad. Somewhat sad to not have Tim Binkosi here this week, considering last week we discovered that his wealth of knowledge of New Zealand's rugby is almost on par with my wealth of knowledge of Sharks rugby. So shout out to him. But yeah, I'm glad to take the win. I thought we were going to bounce back. I gave us a chance to win this game. I didn't realize we are going to win it so convincingly. Tight first half, opened up in the second half, very similar to the game we're going to speak about a bit later, where these South African women versus New Zealand women again tight first half and then opened up in the second half, but unfortunately didn't open up in our favor in the second half. Any final thoughts, Lisa B, on this game?
Yeah, no, like I said, Kiwis, it's not that bad, I promise. And just it's been the best week.
All right, we
Yeah,
will
I
keep.
think I think just one thing that also stood out to me, and if you have the time, go watch both matches again. In the first match, and I think this is where what Jakub Peiper said comes in, you know, incredibly well. In the first match, we allowed them to get under our skin, especially to provide, especially Parker, because you could see them celebrating the whole time. And Reinach was sort of the only guy to step up and take them to it. And he was alone. And this week, you could see all of the players were not taking it. We were in their faces, and Sia Kolisi immediately took it to the referee. The first time Tupovaj stepped in because he was targeting Reinach. The first time he stepped in, Sia Kolisi went to the ref and said, "But he's stepping towards my player." And I think that was a deliberate move that they discussed with Jaco Peyper to say when Tupovaj steps in, have him shove you, shove back, and then I go to the ref. And then immediately the ref turned around and he said to Tupovaj, you can't step in like that. You can't step in towards the players. And then, thanks to Snyman spending a lot of time in Ireland, he's learned how to be an annoying git himself, and he sort of started getting under their skin a lot. So I'm very glad that we decided to take it on the chin and not get involved and sort of just, behind the scenes, just throw a couple of remarks and get in. But I think that also sort of soured the ref towards them, and they lost a lot of good faith. In one of the other clips, the medical guy who was coming on was standing next to Scott Barrett while the ref was talking. And the moment the medical person from the New Zealand team starts talking to the ref, Sia loses it. And he says to the ref, that's the medical guy. Please send him off. He's not the captain. And I think that's sort of not being on the offensive, but that's sort of drawing the line to say, can the right people be involved? This guy doesn't have a say here. He's not the captain. Either Scott Barrett speaks or no one speaks. I think that sort of, offensive capability with the ref drew a line as well, and New Zealand didn't get the goodwill they got last week.
Yeah, South Africa employed a more direct psychological approach. I think last week their focus was let them do what they want in terms of the ref. We're going to focus on ourselves. But now, as we spoke last week about what's the counter going to be, not just on the field, but also how do you manage the referee and that type of thing. So they've shout out to Sia for putting in a good performance on the field and sort of the broader aspects of being a captain, which people sometimes don't give him enough credit for. Yeah, and my final thought would be, yeah, excellent performance from Manus van der Merwe off the bench. I hope to see him play for the Sharks soon. Oh, shots fired from Jacques on Leinster. Oh, the Leinster supporters. So we look ahead to the next few fixtures. There's going to be a 1 week break, so it will be New Zealand versus Australia. So there's no rugby championship games this weekend. Rugby championship also very evenly poised. Any team, all the teams are in with a shot now. It'll be New Zealand versus Australia in New Zealand. So interesting how that pans out with Joe Smith leaving soon, and then South Africa will be hosting Argentina in Durban at Kings Park. So yeah, check it out. We look forward to those games. We'll do a bit more in-depth analysis on that next week. Now we move on to topic number 2 of this week. Unfortunately, our second game of the day against New Zealand didn't quite go our way. The ladies of the Women's Springboks put in a really valiant first half, very tactical, very play to your strengths, understanding that we're up against a much better team than us, turning down a bunch of kickable penalties early on to try and move for the line. Didn't quite work out twice, but then panned out a third time when we actually took the lead in the game ourselves. But then it opened up in the second half. Lisa B, this is your area of expertise. Please avail us your opinion.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so like you said, we knew it was going to be very, very tough. Just being in the quarterfinals, like I said last week, was already, up there with what we could realistically expect of this team. But just watching it on the same day as the men's game and thinking about what South African DNA really means, and knowing that we don't always have everything, we don't have the resources and all of these things, but as South Africans, we use what we have and we use it to excellent effect. And that was what was so wonderful to see on the field with all of the crazy whole team line outs and mauls, the scrum mauls or maul scrums, I'm not quite sure what to call them, but all of those little things that just, I honestly don't think the Black Ferns expected that. I think they underestimated us a little bit because you could really see they didn't quite know what to do with us. They didn't expect us to make it that hard and that difficult for them. And I also think maybe they thought, oh, we will have an easy path to the semis, which we didn't give them. And I'm very, very proud of this team for doing that. And like you said, in the second half, they decided to come out and actually play. And geez, amazing, amazing skill and speed and athleticism that the Black Ferns have. They really are amazing. Um, so yeah, but we hang in there, and well done to Lerato Makua who got the late try. All three our tries were maul tries. But even saying that, you know, the Black Ferns has such a brilliant line defense. The fact that we breached it 3 times really is an amazing feat. They nulled Ireland the week before, and we got 17 points on them. I think yeah, just all round very, very good. And then I can't let this I can't um talk about this game without talking about our captain, Cindy Boy. She has announced before the World Cup started, she announced her retirement, and so this was her last game. She is our most capped Springbok woman player, most capped captain. And her life and her longevity has been such an amazing inspiration. Growing up in a very small town in Eastern Cape where, you know, she hardly knew rugby existed. She played cricket growing up and then came to Cape Town to study. And from there, she's served Vietnam all these years, also as captain later on. And yeah, just lastly, she played in 2010 in our first game against the Black Ferns. She got injured in that game. And for her to play that game and then finish on this game, I just think it's fantastic. So well done. And yeah, I can't wait to see where this will go. Very important now, I think, is Saru needs to capitalize on all the attention that they've garnered and really come out with concrete plans about how the Pro League is going to work, which teams are going to be included, and all of that. I can't wait. I'm very excited.
Yeah, it's important to note that partial of the team arrived at OR Tambo this morning, and another portion of the team will arrive at OR Tambo tomorrow morning, around about from 7 until 10. So yeah, if you are able to go, if they had been coming to Cape Town International Airport, I know myself and Lisa B would have been there. We would have made sort of special arrangements with our day jobs. But yeah, if you're in the Joburg area, I would encourage you to attend. Jean, it's not the result we might have wanted, but we were stark underdogs. I think we showed a lot of character. Do you concur with that?
Yeah, I think look, first of all, let's give credit where it's due. We set out with a goal of making, first of all, to win a match at the Rugby World Cup, and secondly to get to the quarterfinals. Um, Not only did we win our first Rugby World Cup match, we got our first ever win against the Italian women. And that in and of itself was an amazing display of grit and identity, and confidence. And then we got to the quarterfinal, and I really feel this team in a way lay down a marker that says we demand to be respected, um, because of how we play, because of our identity. And credit to Swayze who said, look, we might not be able to go toe to toe and touch to touch with these guys, but what we can do is we can maul and we can scrum and we can tackle the bones out of you in the first half. And we heard the New Zealand players afterwards saying that this wasn't easy. It was by no means easy. Like they were getting crunched in tackles again and again and again and again. And I think the character put on display there is definitely a marker. Um, I'm on a couple of rugby groups on various social media platforms, and the amount of people who are suddenly supporting the women and behind the women is so fantastic. It's so good to see. I do absolutely hope that Nolo Sindiso Boy gets to be involved in the development of the women's game, especially the women's 15 game. I know for a lot of countries, it's a lot easier to develop the sevens game because it's smaller and it's less taxing on resources. But this is the same jersey, it is the same people, it is the same country that in the men's game has brought the cup here 4 times. And our women deserve the same platform as the men. They deserve the same support and the same systems as the men to go and achieve that greatness. And I do absolutely believe that in 4 years' time, when we go to the Women's World Cup again, um, our goal should be semi-final and final. But there are certain things that we will have to look at. I think in terms of defense, we need to go start growing beyond just tackling with absolute might. Our ladies put a lot of heart and soul into tackling, which is brilliant, but you need a defensive system beyond that. We've got big, strong ladies who can get over the ball and latch on. That's a prime opportunity for turnover. And attacking off turnover is Swice's speciality. That is how the Boks won the first game in Wellington. It was attacking off turnover ball, attacking off the moment the opposition loses their momentum, we strike. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there. And then I think in terms of game management, um, getting our tens some exposure maybe to the likes of Handré Pollard, Mani Lebok, Sasha FM, to some of the guys who've been in the pressure cooker and getting them to understand you need to know when to do what in the field and having them develop that. But yeah, so absolutely stoked for the women. If I wasn't in one of the most chaotic weeks of my working life, it would have been easy to jet over to OR Tambo and welcome them home. But yeah, I've got my own chaos at work. But yeah, so proud of them. And I agree with Lisa B. We need a definite pathway. There needs to be a way for young girls to start playing at school, to to um, to go from there to university, from university to a professional league where they're not working a day job and playing and finding sponsors and um, I mean it doesn't have to be huge, but it definitely deserves to be there.
Yeah, I was very impressed by the variation in terms of set piece, so that was good. There's a lot of potential there. Lisa B, if you were heading up Saru, how would you approach this next 4 year cycle?
Well, yeah, I just also wanted to add that the pathways are critical, and that really is the next phase from school age that we need to get into. And Saru has now announced under 16s week where they will have the boys and the girls at the same time in Paarl in a few weeks, I think. So that's incredibly positive. But the point is more schools, more outreach from the unions to school age girls specifically, because so many of our players only start playing late in high school or early out of school. And that is also what you saw with the Black Ferns, just the skill and you know, the stuff you get from playing from when you are 6 or 7 or whenever, or even 10. Um, so that would be my main focus if I were in charge of things. But then also just to to say that it needs to happen concurrently. Like I said, with capitalizing now on the attention that we have and making the Pro League a real thing and making that successful. Because, like Jean said, with the things like on the defense and also counter attack and that sort of thing, you need to have, and Schweizer said this too, you need to have strength versus strength teams. You cannot just have the Bulls daisies walking over everyone, because there's only so much that you can learn from winning every week by 60 points, right? So we need to have more pro teams so that there can be competition in the country. And of course, um, it would be great if we could actually form part of the Pack Four or the Ocean Six, as discussed on our sister channel, the Treehouse, the Rugby Women's Treehouse. That would be the next step. So, but all three of those things kind of have to happen concurrently for us to really forge a way into the future and really become the powerhouse that we can be.
Could you elaborate further for our viewers? What is the current structure in terms of a league in South Africa? I know that the Pretoria team is the only one that has players fully professionalized. All the other teams and unions have players either semi-professional and or club.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. Bulls Daisies turned pro in 2023, and their owners are very rich, so they had the money, and even though they are operating at a loss, they're fine with that because they actually started, uh, they are at the forefront. So you have to have a couple of years and a bit of money to do that kind of thing. Saru did, it was almost a year ago, it was August last year. They did announce that they were going to implement or have 150 centralized contracts available for players. And as I understand it, some of those are already in place. The information has been very scarce, to be completely honest with you. So as far as I know, speaking under correction, all the ladies that did go to the World Cup have a contract, whether it be with the Bulls or with SARU itself. The 150 contracts from SARU are really there in order to set up 4 or 5 pro teams to then compete in a pro women's league. At the moment, we have the women's Premier Division and the women's First Division. We have 6 in the one. If I'm right, sorry, 8 in the one, 6 in the other, right? Um, and so, but as you said, most of the teams are not pro, well, all of them except the Bulls are not pro. And really, the women are going to practice twice a week, late at night, after work. There's only so much you can do in those situations. So the new Pro League, once again, I think it's the real details have not been forthcoming because they kind of wanted to get past the World Cup first. But as per what they said, it should start next year. And that is why I'm so excited to hear all the details, because now the World Cup's done and we can get down to the real nitty-gritty.
John, you want to come in?
Yeah, and just to say that I think people need to understand how a performance like the World Cup feeds into the amateur game, because right now interest is at an all-time high. Meaning next year when the Pro League kicks off, there's going to be a lot of eyes on it, right? But what we absolutely do need for our Springbok women next year is we do need a test calendar. We do need a test calendar because the eyes are on them first. And having a test calendar for them for next year is absolutely crucial because that maintains interest. And as long as there's interest in the highest level, it will start to filter down to the lowest level, right? And That's sort of what you want. For a lot of people, including myself, interest starts with the Springboks, and your rugby interest grows from there. And then you start, because it's difficult when you're following international rugby, you see a team sheet, you don't really know all the names. And then as you start watching more games and getting involved in communities, you start hearing names or you start recognizing names. And then suddenly, when people ask on a match thread or on a lineup, who's this guy, Ethan Hooker? Is he any good? You get an answer. And it's going to be the same effect for the women. If we have a good test calendar every year over the next couple of years, one, our team is building an immense amount of experience. We get to fool around with a lot of things, and we get to build our systems to maintain current, because the ladies' game will swing. Right now, attack is very much in control, and there's gonna be a swing in terms of defense coming into the picture. Um, so we need to adapt to that as a national team, and also in terms of maintaining the interest and building on this, because if we've got the raw talent for the men, we absolutely have the raw talent for the ladies. So maintaining that interest and getting the pathways now is absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It's a very good point. I particularly was a Springbok fan before I became a Sharks fan. And then I discovered the Sharks with like JP Peterson, Waylon Murray, AD Jacobs, so on and so forth. And that obviously they were playing a very expansive, exciting brand of rugby. And they weren't even winning that much. They were just very young. The guys had Barrett in the mix as well. Lisa B, what percentage of the South African team that they took to the World Cup plays for the Bulls, would you say?
Oh my goodness, I can actually tell you. I have a spreadsheet.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Um, so, oh, but you're going to have to let me tell you who doesn't play for the Daisies. That's probably going to be easier.
Okay.
So we have two players from Iboland,
Mm.
Asezahele and Samboya. Then interesting, we have three ladies from Border. Now, South Africans would associate Border with not such great rugby on the men's side. On the
Mm.
women's side, that they are actually a very, very good team, and a lot of the players come from the Eastern Cape, as in the men's too. There are some really amazing athletes, but there are still the financial constraints and things like that in Border. But we have three from there. Then we also have from the Sharks, we have two, Mary Zulu and Tyler Kinsey. Tyler Kinsey is actually our second most experienced player behind Cindy Boy in the squad. She's been around for a very, very long time. And then from Vietnam, of course, our captain, Lushal Hanakom, who's kind of new into the Springboks. And then Kuswayo from the Lions.
Okay.
So
And
those are
because he's
all.
got some representation.
Sorry, say again.
And because he's got some representation
Yeah,
through you.
exactly. One. Um, and then there are a couple of women who were overseas who are listed currently as unattached. I'm assuming they're waiting for some new signings overseas, or my hope is that they might come back home and bring their experience back home on some central contracts. I don't know. We shall see, but those are Babal Walacha. We know that she's the first African woman to actually get a contract overseas. The same for Gwala. She's been overseas. They all play in the English league. She's been there for a while, but I don't think her contract was renewed, so she's also listed as unattached. And then, of course, Nadine Ruiz is with the Sevens. I I can't see whether she would actually be contracted with the 15s team because she is a very pivotal player in the Sevens. So we'll have to see. And then who else was there? Oh, Makua, I know, is off to France, if I'm right. So she's still that unattached, but I think she has signed. And then Kata Jacobs as well, of Kata Jacobs, who's also, I think, looking for a new overseas place. And then Daniel Lochner is with Harlequins, and Mika Gunter is with Leicester Tigers.
Okay, cool.
So,
So, just quick brief of the quarterfinals. South Africa unfortunately lost to New Zealand. Well done, New Zealand. Canada, Australia put up a fight, and then Canada just put on the afterburners. The French Island game was quite controversial. One of the French players decided to bite Aoife Croissant, and the referee didn't catch it, and now she's been banned for 12 games. It's effectively a whole season. She's out for a whole season. But France still
9.
advanced. They just can't pick her. Yeah, and England, much like the other games, England sort of just toyed with Scotland for the most part, and then pulled away. That's a Six Nations fixture. So now we have two really exciting semi-finals. What's going to happen between New Zealand and New Zealand? By the way, New Zealand are rated below Canada, so this is going to be a very exciting fixture. And then England are very much favorites against France. Lisa B, do you have any thoughts on the semi-finals?
oh, the Canada Black Ferns game is going to be fire. It's going to be, we saw from our perspective what Canada brings. They are incredibly physical. In a way, I think we kind of did the Black Ferns a slight favor, but because we were the first really physical team that they had to face. And so that might have tired them out, or it might have actually made them stronger for Canada. We will see. But yeah, Canada have been doing so well. Both have got great attacks. Both have got excellent, ball carriers and legends of the game. So this is my game to watch for the semis. England versus France. England's gonna win. Um, that's all I can really say. I just hope the French make sure their players have enough snacks before the game so that they don't get hungry inside the game.
Exactly. We look forward to both games. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for the Friday night fixture. Our third topic of the week, we're reviewing the Currie Cup semi-finals, where Tim Nkosi, unfortunately not with us, team took on Lisa B's Ball Cavaliers. It was quite tight until Lions pulled away. Your thoughts, Lisa B?
I think you're being very kind by saying it was tight. It wasn't. No. To be very honest with you, it did not go well with us. It has been a bit of a problem for Boland playing away. Number one, I thought we had kind of exercised those demons winning against the Pumas, but it was something that you saw since we've been in the first division, or when we won the first division, both of those seasons, we weren't great away, and in the SA Cup, the same thing. So I don't know if it's a kind of a team management thing, or I don't know, just the Boerland air that we miss. But I really thought we didn't exactly pitch up for that game. And yeah, what can I say? Lions played out of their skin. Angelo Davids with 4 tries. I mean, my goodness. He obviously had a point to prove. And I suppose the one little piece of light was Jaden Bantham scoring a burner of a try late. I think it was like 10 minutes before the end or so. Just ran in on his debut. So that was really nice, thinking about the, what we will hope for next season if we do get into the Currie Cup again. We do have some really nice young players, and also just to say, I am very proud of them. I don't think many people thought Boland would make it to the quarterfinals. And we did, and we played some excellent, wonderful games. We also showed, I think, many South Africans that the worth of the smaller towns. And I think many people found this Currie Cup entertaining and exciting because of Boland and because of what they brought to the party. So I'm very, very proud of them, but I really can't tell you that we played well. Just being honest.
Yeah, the commentary team also said that this was Jaden Bantham's first game. This was actually his first start. He was on the bench last week. His name is Bantam, so there's a Bucky joke there somewhere, Jean. You live in Pretoria, that is in the Gauteng province. How proud are you of this Lions team? You're stepping in for them in Nkosi this week.
Yeah, look, I think this Lion teams, they definitely stepped out again, clearing 10 here. I wonder if they they had a similar prep in the week as the Springboks. But yeah, look, there was clear intent there from minute one. And yeah, just relentless pace, and they were keeping the ball alive. Um, Normally I'm not a fan of the Ellis Park altitude argument, although I think in this case it did actually play a role. Boland coming from where they are, everything's relatively flat. They're not that high above sea level. Playing here, um, Ellis Park sits at just under 900 meters above sea level. That's quite an incline. It's quite a rise. I remember when I moved to Gauteng, the first 5 or 6 months of running here, it felt like I was breathing through a straw. So, I can imagine for professional athletes they might adapt a bit quicker. But yeah, Boland Cavaliers not necessarily having the same facilities and the same prep time. And also having traveled all across the country, it's very difficult. I think what sort of did Boland in my opinion was they didn't have any get out plays or any breakout plays. They didn't have anything to fall back on to say, listen, we're about to kick off. We're 2 or 3 tries behind. What is our plan from kickoff to immediately get the ball back? Once we get the ball back, how do we strike? Which is, I think you always need some sort of joker play to get yourself back in the game. Because if you are sitting with a score of between 14 and 21 nil, um, you need to start getting kickoff ball. If you're not getting kickoff ball, it becomes very hard. I do have a question for you guys though, because I have been thinking about this. When I used to play in my very much youth of 2 to 3 years ago, when I used to play action netball, we had a rule in our league that you are not allowed to play in the knockout if you had not at least played 2 regular games. Should we consider a similar rule for the Currie Cup that you cannot bring in a URC strength team? That any player playing in the semi-final had to have played at least 3 of the matches before the semi-final. Is that worth discussing? Because what we're seeing here from the Lions, and this it's not 100% a URC team, but it's a pretty stacked team here.
Yeah, it's about a 90% URC team. There's only 2 or 3 players that are missing. That would be the scrum half. That's about it. That I can think of from it. Yeah, I would definitely. There's a 7 match regular season for the Currie Cup, and I would completely endorse a program where you had to appear at least for 3 games, and maybe even a cap on minimum. It's sort of stopping people from bringing someone on for like 5 minutes to fill the cap. Yeah, in terms of like a minimum minutes you would actually have to have played in the game, like a half at least, in each game. So yeah, Lisa B, your thoughts? This is definitely out the tournament as a whole.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And great minds think alike. I've also been thinking, you have to nerf the big four in some way, or you have to give some great advantage to the smaller unions, because as things stand, as long as one of the big unions can make it to the top four, they're almost guaranteed of winning, as long as, they're the only one, which I don't think is very great for the competition as a whole, because here we sit and it's going to be Lions, and they have all of these wonderful players against the Griquas, taking nothing away from Griquas, but you know the player stocks are what they are. So yes, I was also thinking of forcing the bigger unions, or the big unions, to stick to a squad, so that they, a squad that has to play um the entire competition, or otherwise to make some some players, let's call them marquee players, available for the smaller unions. I mean, we've seen what Donovan Don has done for the Boerland. Um, Imagine if we had 3 or 4 of his caliber of players. Um, so either way, but I very much agree, just for the competition and for an exciting end to what has been a very exciting competition. So I'm here for it, John. Very good idea.
Yeah, I think in my perspective, I would do it like this. I would say, in order for a player to be considered for a semi-final, in order for a player to be considered for the final, he needs to have been in the match day squad. Let's say you get to name 30 players for the semi-final. Those 30 players are the same players. That's two rugby teams, right? So you've got two rugby teams. For the semi-final, that same 30 qualifies for the final. You don't get to bring in anyone new for the semi-final. Obviously, medical exceptions barring, if you've lost both locks, both of your starting locks, you're going to need to bring in some locks. And you can have medical exceptions. But then in order to make the semi-final 30, right? Those semi-final, the 30 players that you name as your semi-final squad needs to, all of them have played in minutes worth of 3 matches. So that's 80, 160, it's 240 minutes within the preceding 7 matches, right? So whether you bring them on for 5 minutes, that means that when we say 3 matches, it's not 3 caps. You didn't run out of the tunnel 3 times. You need to live up to the 240-minute obligation of this player being on the pitch, right? And then you can that allows you to work it as this player sometimes starts, this player sometimes ends the game, but it will definitely force the bigger unions to select a squad for the Currie Cup and stick with it. And not just say we're going to use the first 3 games as a proving ground for the young guys and then start dropping in reinforcements.
Yeah, and also just for the younger guys who have played the majority of the matches, and now they can't see it through, and they can't play a semi-final or a final because the big boys have
Yeah.
come to play, Yeah.
Yeah.
The reality is that if you're going to pick a squad of 30, what they can do is very similar to football. You can supplement that squad, but only with youth players. So,
Yeah.
and I say that from the perspective of the Sharks, who during the Currie Cup regular season actually used the most amount of individual players, because in the first few rounds, we're playing guys who we knew, those of us who were really obsessive about the Sharks know from the youth system. And then once the under 20 and under 19 Currie Cup started, or South African tournament started, it's not known as the Currie Cup, those players are now in those squads, and the Sharks are doing quite well because those players were exposed to a higher level of rugby. Yes, they sort of lost quite convincingly to the Bulls and the Lions, but those players are actually playing quite well. So I would stop teams from supplementing with senior players, but if they do get injuries do happen, you can bring in the young guys. So yeah, that's definitely a way forward. All right. We move on to the Griquas in Kimberley defeating the Cheetahs relatively convincingly. None of us on the panel, not even Tim Bikosi, are Griquas and or Cheetahs supporters. However, we do have on this podcast a very good appreciation for the Cheetahs. Sorry, for the Griquas, Cheetahs as well, but Griquas especially. Um, yeah, very professional performance from Griquas at home. Now they'll have to face the Lions in Johannesburg, not too far away. It'll be the Lions' second home Currie Cup final, by the way. Um, we talk about depth, and Jean mentioned earlier in the season in the podcast he was concerned about smaller unions and their although I try to shy away from the smaller union phrase. I just say like URC franchises and that type of thing. Um, Especially in terms of the Pumas, we were talking about a Pumas game. We were concerned about their depth. The Griquas have mostly used the same players, and their strength and conditioning coach and system must be really, really good because their players are playing very well. They did not win the SA Cup. They got to the final SA Cup and they lost to the Pumas in Mbombela. And in the first fixture of this Currie Cup regular season was a repeat of that fixture. They faced the Pumas in Mbombela and they were mostly outplayed, especially in the second half. That having been said, they're in the final now and the Pumas didn't even make the Currie Cup playoffs. So that to me says that there's very good competition in this tournament, and I really appreciate it. Jean, your thoughts on the Griquas making the final?
Yeah, I watched the game in disjointed parts. So watched like the first quarter, then the second quarter, as time presented itself available. But something that's actually very interesting to me is the way the Griquas approached the game, because they were outpassed by the Cheetahs, um, even though they scored more tries. And I think where that comes in is the Cheetahs not really making a lot of tackles. The Cheetahs focusing on shutting down space instead of committing to hard lines, which allowed the Griquas to pick their lines really well. And the Griquas, as we know, they've got a lot of guys who can pick a line and just rip you to shreds. So yeah, but they came out with absolutely blistering pace. I mean, if you thought the Lions were putting the Cavaliers to the sword, this Griquas Cheetahs game was like from minute one, Griquas was running it the whole time. They were like missiles being launched, just finding gaps to go through. So yeah, no, look, I think they're definitely peaking at the right time in terms of physical conditioning. And it could be that we saw a slow start because of an intense physical build-up. I know we've seen this in the past with especially England prior to the 2023 World Cup, where they looked very sluggish in their warm-up matches. And that's normally a sign that players are recovering from extreme conditioning. So it could be that they came out of an extremely intensive fitness camp right before the season started. I'm hoping that they do the right thing and focus this week on mindset, on recovery. This is not the time to be doing bench press PRs, to be doing strength and conditioning sessions. Um, you know, recover, let your body get as close to 100% again, get your mindset right, and take it from there, because if the mind carries you, you're there. But yeah, it felt like one-way traffic. The Cheetahs managed to get themselves one try in return. And credit to the Cheetahs, they played a very well connected game. But the Griquas defense was very intense. It was very intense, and they're not scared of fronting up physically, which is something the Lions, I think, will be noting in their review of the game, is that the Griquas are there to be physical, and also just how clever they play on defense. They're not putting themselves in positions where they give away a lot of penalties. Um, they really keep themselves well and truly connected and organized, and they don't put themselves in a position to give away a lot of penalties.
Yeah, the Griquas, we mentioned that the Sharks use the most players over the course of the regular season, the Griquas actually used the least amount of players. So yeah, and their balance in terms of youth and experience is very good. They might not have won the SA Cup, but they use that as a springboard to stay focused. And now they're in a Currie Cup final. Lisa B, everybody on this podcast likes an underdog except for Tembinkosi because his team is in the final. Um, your journey in the Currie Cup with Borland mirrors the Griquas very much. You must have a certain degree of admiration for them as well.
I've always loved the Griquas, just also that play style. It's so fun and it's so just amazing to see once again a non-URC union having that like the quality in the backs. And also I have to say their set pieces, their lineouts let them down a little bit in the past weekend, but in general, you know, the balance has been so good. They even when Boland went up to Kimberley, I mean, they completely mauled us off the field. And the same with the line outs. So really, I think the standard of their players and just those small things that they get right. They control their controllables and just fantastic to see and really hats off to you know, Kimberley is not a very big place, even though they have a large land area in their union. They don't have a lot of people living there, and it's kind of far away from everything. But they managed to put together just a fantastic team. I love this team. They're so great. So yeah, they won all of their scrums. Cheetahs will be very irritated with themselves. They got 2 out of 7 scrums. Um, and that's not something that usually, you know, flies in Bloemfontein. I think they will be kind of, um, yeah, like I said, irritated with themselves for losing so much. I do also love the Cheetahs as most South Africans do, but they kind of just did kind of, yeah, they also didn't do themselves any favors.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to see Griquas in the finals.
Yeah. The Cheetahs will, I believe, be playing this season again in the Challenge Cup alongside the Lions. So yeah, we wish them well. In the Battle of the Jimny versus Ilax Bucky, the Jimny won. Lisa, you said you drive a Suzuki. What type of Jimny do you drive?
Oh, it's not a Jimny.
Ah,
I've got a bigger Suzuki.
all right. I love a good Jimny. I hope to get one day. All right, guys. Quickly, I'm picking the Lions to win the Currie Cup as much as I like the Griquas, but that's what my head says. My heart says Griquas. John, who you got?
Griquas all the way.
All
I
right.
think it's going to be tight. Knowing how the past Currie Cup finals have gone for the past 2 years, book at least 100 minutes for yourself, because both of them have gone well past the 80. And I think that's wonderful. I think really it besides the drama and the event, it just shows you how much it means to some of these players to be able to lift the Currie Cup. But yeah, no, Griquas all the way. I think Griquas will they will if the Lions want to take it, they will have to literally kill someone on the Griquas team.
Are you and Tim Inkosi going to be attending this game considering it's in your province?
Unfortunately, I'm working on Saturday. Short notice, I my schedule has shifted around, so I won't be able to attend now.
Oh, that's too bad. Lisa B, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, no, I'm all behind the Griquas. So we have to show these URC teams who's boss, eh?
Underdogs, we love a good underdog. So the last point of call for this week, bit of news. Jacques Nienaber extends his contract at Leinster, which means he won't be available, the much rumored availability for us for the South African national Springbok team for the World Cup. Is that a big deal, Sean? Do you feel that it's a bit hyped too much, or would you have liked to see him back?
Would I have liked to see him back?
Hmm.
Maybe, maybe. Looking at how our center field defense and our defense in general was in the second All Blacks game. I think we're starting to find the balance. Um, it's difficult to say, too many chefs, and the broth is ruined. I do think that he's a very he plays from he wants security, right? And if you're good defensively, um, if you're good defensively, that boosts you in a tournament. Attack wins you games, defense wins you tournaments. Um, I think Ireland's possibility of making it past the quarterfinals just went up by like anywhere from 1 to 20%. Um, but yeah, it's on the one hand it's sad, but on the other hand, I can also see the Springbok team evolving beyond that over the course of next year. But I'm happy for him. I know his family was well settled in Ireland and he adjusted well, and obviously very welcome there. And the impact he's had for Leinster, who, despite having majority of the Irish squad playing there, being without silverware for so long, I really hope he takes them to the the Champions Cup final and they get the Champions Cup. I think it's a bit early for a South African team to probably be competing in something like that, but I do hope for him that it goes well there, and you can see certainly he's made a difference to Leinster in terms of mentality and defense. So yeah, does it hurt the box? Maybe, maybe not. That is something only time will tell.
Yeah. Look, he had a bit of a tough time in his first season at Leinster. Caught a lot of criticism, some warranted, some not. There was a few articles where he spoke about he adjusted his communication in the second year, trying to sort of cut to the point so that the players get the message a bit more clearly. Lisa B, you went to high school with Jacques Nienaber, correct? So do you have any inside info for us?
How old do you think I am? Um, and also never lived in Bloemfontein ever. But but if this news had come out last week, I would have been a little bit more upset. Because to be honest, I was questioning Flannery and our defense, and if we actually could continue without him. I'm feeling a little bit better about it this week, obviously, but also telling myself it was just one game for the Springboks. We'll have to see how the rest of the Rugby Championship goes. I think he has been missed, but saying that, Rassi knows how to get a group of people together to get to a certain goal. And so the coaches he has assembled are excellent. They are some of the best in the world. And I heard you, Muhammad, on the URC pod, you, there was the idea floated that Ninamer wasn't so happy in Ireland, but obviously that is. And also, I think it's so important for South African coaches to go overseas. I really do want them to come back and bring back that IP, as one would with players as well. But yeah, if he's happy there, I'm happy for him. And yeah, I wouldn't say that I want Leinster to do extremely well, but I want him to do very well at Leinster. Let's say that.
Yeah, look, would have been nice to have him back, but I have a lot of faith in the coaching staff that they have assembled. There's some really good variety, a lot of different voices there. So yeah, I think he will be back in the South African setup at some point in his career. I personally would have liked him to take over from Plumtree at some point at the Sharks. I mean, that could happen. Who knows? So yeah, congratulations to him. That brings us to the end of our show. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, click the notification bell, hype up the podcast. Until next week, in Rassi, we trust.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you for listening to A Bit of an Animal. Please like, rate and subscribe wherever you see us, and join us again next week for more of the same. Until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.